Hello, I'm Bill Buell. I'm the Schenectady County Historian. I grew up in Glenville, went to the Burnt Hills Balsam Lake School District, went to SUNY Schenectady and then the University at Albany where I got a history degree. I also was a sports writer and a longtime feature writer at the Daily Gazette newspaper in Schenectady. I was appointed Schenectady County Historian in May of 2019. Replacing my dear friend Ed Riley, who had passed away earlier that year. The Scotia Library was built around 1728 by Abraham Glenn. He was the grandson of Alexander Lindsay Glenn, who came to Schenectady around 1655 and in 1658 built the first house on the north side of the Mohawk River. His name was Alexander Lindsay Glenn. He had a son named Johannes, and Johannes had two sons, Jacob, and then the younger one was Abraham. Abraham built this house around 1728, like I said. His family lived here until 1842, when it was sold to the Collins family. The Collins family, which is where we get the name Collins Lake, Collins Park from, they lived here into the 1920s. A little old lady, Annie Collins, sold it to a Catholic sisterhood named the Daughters of Wisdom. They wanted to turn it into a home for handicapped children, but the layout just didn't work very well. So eventually they donated it to the village of Scotia, where it was soon turned into a library. In 2004, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. It has undergone some renovation. There was some serious work done in 2012. A new front porch was added, a couple of other items, but it's still been a very workable library all these years. It's got a wonderful second floor, also a third floor, which we don't get to see too much. But it's a great little building, and there's really a lot of history associated with it. The Deborah Glenn portrait was painted by Peter Vanderlyn, we believe around the time that she was married to John Sanders from Albany, somewhere around 1738-9, somewhere around there. She was the great-granddaughter of Alexander Lindsay Glenn. John Sanders, her husband, was descended from a prominent Albany family. His father was a mayor of Albany. But when he married Deborah, he came over to Schenectady and lived. Deborah was born in 1721, lived into 1786. The portrait, the original portrait, which had been in the Glenn Sanders mansion for more than 200 years, was purchased by a collector who then sold it to Colonial Williamsburg, where it is now on display still in the Folk Art Museum at Colonial Williamsburg. The copy that we have here is a print of the original that the Schenectady County Historical Society had for the last 30 or 40 years or so. It's a very good print. It's not quite as vivid or as colorful as the original. It's also a bit smaller. The original that hangs in the Folk Art Museum in Williamsburg is practically life-size. It's a very popular piece of folk art. Supposedly is world-renowned. Peter Vanderlyn got to be a bit of a rock star. So it's a very well-known painting among folk art historians. And it's great. It moved over here to the Scotia Branch of the County Library last year, I want to say. And it's in a prominent position right behind the front counter. It's a wonderful portrait. They suspect that the clothes she is wearing are the ones she wore on her wedding day.